Welcome to my unaesthetic procreate tour, in which everything is labeled untitled. Today this is gonna be a really laid back video. I'm gonna walk you through, 6 years worth of art on my iPad Pro. I'm going to share some never before seen art, a lot of work in progresses. I got a lot of sketches that have never seen the light of day, but they will be shared today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this little cozy little sketchbook tour. I like to organize my Procreate files from years, so it starts at 2018. Even though I've had this iPad actually since 2016, I recently cleaned it out because the files, if you draw on an iPad, you know that the files are massive, and I was running out of space. This is only a 64 gigabyte iPad, so I had to clear some stuff out. So some of these years are emptier than others because I cleaned out some stuff, but I kept some of my favorite things on there and some work in progresses that, maybe one day I'll decide to take out of the grave. So like I said, I organized by year, so we'll start with 2018. I've cleaned out most of this, but this was a good drawing year, and I saved my most prominent pieces from that year, like this one, the Six of Crows piece. This is one of the biggest projects I had done to that point. I had just read the series earlier in the end of 2017, and I was emotional, was very moved by it, and I wanted to create something for it. And I'm pretty proud of this piece even to this day, even though I wouldn't necessarily draw the characters this way anymore. I had also read Lunar Chronicles around that time. I consider 2016 to 2018 my reading renaissance. I was obsessed with, I had just found really good books during that time. And so this was when I was creating character designs for them, and I'd colored a sketch. And I wouldn't necessarily draw them this way, but I liked the sketch. This is an unfinished piece I don't think I've shown anyone, maybe besides my patrons. And this was after I had finished A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. And I wanted to create this ethereal piece of the characters, a little bit dramatic. I'm not entirely sure what the inspiration behind this was, but I never finished it for a variety of reasons. I lose inspiration pretty fast, and I never finished it. I think that the concept for this piece was really interesting, but I just never got around to finishing it, and I don't know if I ever will. Some highlights from 2018, so we'll move on to 2019, which is the year that Spider-Man Far From Home came out, and that was what I saved. This is not everything that I drew that year, but I just saved a lot of the Spider-Man art, I think, just because I liked it. I was pretty proud of a lot of that artwork, and this was one that I'd posted that was a pretty popular one on Instagram. This was the year I tried to get a little bit into more story art. I love story art because I love stories, so I want to create more sequence pieces like this, and this is one I never shared. I never posted this on social media. I never finished it, but I liked this idea of just having MJ and Peter interact. I love this kind of art. I love it when people do this, and I want to do it. I'm just not great at it, but I'm pretty proud of this piece. One of the reasons why I called this unaesthetic is that I've seen people's Procreates that are just really beautiful. They're Procreate files. Half of my artwork looks like this. Messy sketches, unformed. The pages don't look that great. They're just kind of messy and half-formed sketches. I've never been very good about finishing sketchbooks, and that kind of reflects here in my Procreate files, that they are just kind of all over the place. There'll be one page with one face. Sometimes they'll look kind of nice like this, where they're a little bit more illustrated sketchbook pages, and I'm trying to get better at that, but most of the time mine are they're just kind of messy, and it's okay. So that's why I call it unaesthetic. 2019 was the year the Game of Thrones final season came out, and I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan, but I wanted to draw them just because I think the characters are fun to draw, and I only drew 2 of them. You can see I had a lineup planned, and I never finished it, but I have Arya and Sansa, and that's all it's going to be. Moving on to 2020, the year of the pandemic. This was actually one of the first years I really tried to finish colored pieces, and you can see I brought most of them up to the top of my final art. Coloring is not my skill set. It's something that doesn't come naturally to me, but I really tried in 2020 to focus on color. This was the year I watched Anne with an E on Netflix. I watched it with my mom while we were in quarantine, and I adored it. It was just the best quarantine watch. And this, to this day, is just one of my favorite drawings I've ever done. I just think I did a great job coloring it. I think I captured at least Gilbert really well. And so I save this sometimes. Sometimes I just save artwork because I'm proud of it and I want to come back and reference it. And this is just one of those pieces. I really am proud of it. And I come back to it all the time. But like I said, don't let those colored pieces at the top fool you. Oh, this Procreate file still looks really messy. Lots of half-finished pieces. This was the year that Folklore came out, and I was really inspired by Folklore. I made pieces like this that were inspired by certain songs. I want to come back to these concepts, and they just never finished. I never finished them. But so there's a lot of those like half-formed Folklore-inspired art. This one was inspired by Cruel Summer, which came out in 2019. Cruel Summer is one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs. And I really like this concept. I really like how I drew her. Don't really like how I drew him, so I would come back to this, but I'm still proud of this. This was inspired by the line, he looks up grinning like a devil. This was a Percy Jackson redraw from a drawing I did in 2015, and this to this day is one of the best-selling stickers on my shop, so if you want to buy a sticker, head to my shop. I read King of Scars in 2020, so these were some character sketches of Nikolai and Zoya. I've shared a few of these on my Instagram, but not all of them. Next, I also have Cress and Thorn from the Lunar Chronicles, who are my favorite. This is when I challenged myself to finish final pieces, and this to this day is just, I think, a really good piece. I used the symmetry tool. It really helped me like practice backgrounds in a way I'm not necessarily the best at. 2020 was the year I started my yearly New Girl rewatch, which I now do almost every year. And at some point I decided I wanted to draw all the characters. So I started with Schmidt and Cece because why would I not? And I never really got anywhere from it, but I do watch the show yearly. It's just the best. Moving on to 2021, and this was the year Bridgerton came out. And I'm not a big Bridgerton fan. I don't not like it. It's just not my favorite. It's not something I'm like obsessed with. But this piece, like something popped off. I'm not entirely sure what happened. And it kind of makes me sad sometimes that this happened with Bridgerton, where I'm like, how did I do this? I think every artist experiences this, where you have like moments where your artistic ability is just like better than it normally is. And the way I colored this, I still reference it to this day. And there's just a part of me that's like, dang, why did it happen for Bridgerton? But it's a good piece. I'm proud of it. 2021 was the year Shadow and Bone season 1 came out. So I have a lot of Six of Crows sketches here. I'm reacting to the show, also just like redesigning my characters, my drawings of them. I also did this piece for Ever After. Fun fact, Ever After is one of my favorite movies of all time, and so I wanted to draw something for them. I don't love this. This is why it was abandoned, but I just want people to know Ever After is one of my favorite movies. 2021 was a year I also wanted to develop original characters and original story. So these were some initial sketches. I don't really know much about this story, if I'm honest. I know it involves this girl and she's running away from something. And in these sketches you see right here, I'm trying to reflect that story that she's like a refugee of sorts. She's running from something, but it's a really unformed idea. I'm doing that with my hand. It's just a really unformed idea. I don't know much about it, but 2021 was the year I really tried to start to think about it. So you can see some of those illustrations there. This was like a story illustration I did that I think I would change it now. I don't like how I drew him at all, but it's just like the beginning of forming of a story, and I want to spend more time developing it. I've never done anything like this before, but it's there. I'm just showing that it's there. This was another piece of story art that I don't even know how it fits. I just know something's happening, but this was actually inspired by Gold Rush by Taylor Swift, which, if you can't tell, I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. Moving on to 2022, which, again, lots of sketches. This was the year I started developing t-shirts for my site, so you'll see some of that here. And this was that t-shirt. This was like the first t-shirt that like launched my essentially t-shirt business, which was ACOTAR, the Night Court. And this is definitely one of the best-selling things on my site right now. A lot of my art from 2022 is all over the place, but one of the books I read that year was The Inheritance Games, and I liked the first book a lot. The other books, I have thoughts, but I just wanted to draw all the characters. So these were just some character sketches that I did, trying to be better at sketching. And these are some of the first sketches I did of Avery that you can see transformed over time, for sure. And moving on to 2023, a lot of my art this year has been motivated by The Last of Us. It's just the show that I've been obsessed with. So here are just a series of sketches that I've shared across like different platforms. Again, I love character sketches, story art, so a lot of my art reflects that. I wanted to do these things where I just summarize things I watched one month. Couldn't do it for February because all I watched was The Last of Us. These are just some of the stories I watched or read that year. These were just some like gesture drawings I was trying to do. They're really not great. They're kind of embarrassing. But because I like to do story art, I need to practice gesture, and you can tell I'm not the best at it, but you got to practice. This is a half-formed Joel and Ellie idea of them sitting around a campfire. And sometimes I think it's helpful to see just how scrappy these initial sketches can be, and TBD if this ever goes anywhere because it's still happening. And this is another Joel and Ellie screen cap redraw that I did. Again, when anything I finish something with color, whenever I finish color, it's kind of a big deal for me because it's just not my strong suit. So big moment when I can finish coloring something. And this is the end of my Procreate tour. I hope this was fun to watch. I hope it was helpful. I hope that if you don't have an aesthetic Procreate, that this made you feel better, because mine is not aesthetic. Mine is just a bunch of messy sketches. And it's just meant to be a sketchbook, so that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So you and I, we are the same if you're in the same boat as me. Let me know, do you have an unaesthetic Procreate? Do you do something different than I do? Do you have like one head on a page like me? Well, let me know. I'd be interested to hear how you guys use Procreate. But otherwise, thanks again so much for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon. Bye!